After driving for hours to my nephew's baptism, my sister Jenna stopped me before I could even get inside. "Let's not cause a scene," she said. "It's better if you leave." I quietly handed her the gift envelope, turned, and left. 10 minutes. Later, she opened the empty envelope to find a note. "Check your joint account." I heard her screaming from the parking lot before I even drove away. I had thought I would be a special guest, not because I craved the attention, but because I deserved it. Jenna wouldn't have survived the past year without my help. When the mortgage company called, who wired $3,000 the same day. When her husband lost his job and the utilities were shut off, who paid to have the lights and heat turned back on? When she had a hospital bill insurance wouldn't cover, who handled it? I did, every single time. So I expected a warm welcome, maybe even a thank you. I showed up dressed for the front pew, next to the godparents, with a new envelope in my pocket containing what she'd expect. Another generous check. The church was massive and bustling. I parked away from the crowd just as the ceremony was starting, getting out of my car and straightening my blazer. Jenna was already outside, and I should have known something was wrong. She wasn't greeting guests. She was just standing there, arms crossed, staring directly at me like she'd been waiting. She approached with no smile, no greeting. She just delivered her rehearsed line. "Let's not cause a scene. It's better if you leave." I stood there for a second, wondering if I had misheard her, but her expression was stern, like a bouncer turning me away from a club. Instead of arguing, I reached into my jacket, pulled out the envelope, and handed it to her. Then I walked back to my car without saying a word. She likely thought I was sulking, but the truth was, I was already thinking about what came next. I sat in my car, engine off, staring blankly ahead. The laughter of guests was a distant buzz. I was thinking about how long it had taken me to see through Jenna's manipulations and how long my parents had enabled her. She had used me repeatedly. 10 minutes later, a side door slammed open and Jenna came flying out, heels clacking furiously. She was holding the envelope as if it had burned her hands, yelling into her phone. I knew what she had seen. Inside the envelope, instead of a check, was a note that read, "Check your joint account." The account we used for emergencies, the one I funded and she drained, was now empty. That morning, I had moved every cent into a new private account, changed all the passwords, and locked her out completely. She had finally hit the limit. Her yelling was interrupted when my dad's truck pulled into the lot. I chuckled to myself. She'd called him the second she read the note. They were about to descend on me, but I didn't move. I wanted them to come. I wanted them to try these same old guilt trips and manipulations. I sat there, calm amidst the rising chaos. They had no idea what I had in store for them. My dad's old Chevy screeched as he braked too fast, half over the parking lines. From my car, I watched him with my window half rolled down. I didn't flinch. Mom got out, already pointing at me like I was a suspect. Jenna dramatically waved them over, her posture a clear sign of a victim. From my perspective, it was almost comical. They marched toward my car with Dad in the lead and Jenna 2 steps behind, as if he were her legal counsel. He leaned in, his voice low and ironic given their knack for drama. "You're really going to pull this stunt today on your nephew's baptism?" I didn't answer right away. I just looked at the 3 of them, Mom with her arms folded, Jenna feigning tears, and Dad waiting for an explanation. I calmly replied I handed her an envelope at a family event. "Isn't that what people do at baptisms?" Mom snapped. "Don't be a smartass, Lisa. You emptied the joint account. Jenna has bills due." She was counting on that money for the mortgage. This week, what were you thinking? I kept my eyes on Jenna, who was silent, her lips tight. She knew exactly why I had done it, which is why she had run outside so quickly. She just hadn't expected me to actually go through with it. I let the silence linger a bit longer before reaching into my glove compartment. I pulled out a folded piece of paper and held it up just long enough for them to see the bold numbers. $4,000. The real check. I had brought it with me. You were going to give her that? Okay. my mom asked, looking shocked. That was the plan. Yeah? I said if she hadn't told me to leave the second I showed up. Jenna stepped forward. You seriously came all the way here to punish me? No. I said, I came here to celebrate your son and brought a gift. You told me to leave, so I left. She held up the empty envelope. And this is your revenge. Mom, now shifting from outrage to disappointed, chimed in, Lisa, this is childish. You're putting money over family. I had heard this script countless times before. Whenever Jenna did something wrong, they circled the wagons, and I was always the selfish one for setting boundaries. They never asked about how much I'd already given or how it affected me. Jenna crossed her arms. At least give me access back to the account even if there's nothing in it. Mom quickly agreed. That's reasonable, Lisa. You can't just freeze her out completely. I looked at them all and said, I'll think about it. I knew the moment I said it that it was a mistake. In this family, I'll think about it wasn't a boundary. It was an invitation. They didn't leave. They took my words as a cue to press harder, standing in a tight huddle near my car, whispering. I rolled up my window and turned on the air conditioning, letting them stew. Jenna kept glancing over, expecting me to cave, to hand over the check and apologize. But I wasn't soft that day. I just stared straight ahead, hands on the steering wheel, waiting them out. Eventually, Jenna stormed back to the church, followed by my dad. My mom lingered for a moment, giving me her tired, disappointed look before leaving as well. I waited another 5 minutes, then started my car and drove off. I needed to get away to not be seen. I ended up at a strip mall, parked in front of a grocery store, and bought a coffee I didn't want. As I sat there, I remembered something I hadn't thought about in months: the car. The silver 2011 Honda Civic I'd given Jenna and her husband the previous year when he had an accident. I had been planning to sell it, but I gave it to them out of a sense of familial duty. It was never treated as a loan or a gift with gratitude. It just became theirs. They never bothered to transfer the title or get their own insurance. So I had taken it off my policy. I checked my phone. The car was still legally registered in my name with no liens. That's all I needed to know. I called a towing company I had used once before, gave them the license plate number, and described the car. I told them where it was likely parked: the small lot behind the church near the dumpsters, where Jenna always parked to avoid the front crowd. The guy said it would take about 45 minutes. I sat there sipping cold coffee and rereading old texts from Jenna, all asking for money and never once offering to pay me back. I expected to feel guilty, but I didn't. 40 minutes later, my phone buzzed. The car had been towed without a hitch and was on its way to the impound lot, where it would sit under my name. I pictured Jenna inside the church, completely unaware that her ride home was being hooked up and driven away. This would be her second surprise of the day, and this time she couldn't blame anyone but herself. I stayed in that parking lot, enjoying the silence. No buzzing phone, no furious texts, no dramatic voicemails. It was the first time in a long time that things felt quiet. I was about to drive home when I opened Facebook out of habit. Jenna had already posted a full album of the baptism. She was in a pale blue dress, her baby in an elaborate white outfit, my parents standing proudly next to her. The caption read, "Grateful for the love, the faith, and the people who show up when it matters." A clear jab at me. I almost laughed, but then something strange happened. The post stalled. The group photo she'd captioned disappeared mid-upload, and the caption was cut off. I kept refreshing, but nothing changed. Just as I realized something was wrong, my phone rang with an unknown number. I had a feeling it was important, so I answered. It was Jenna's husband. "Where the hell's the car?" he demanded. I told him. "Straight? It's still registered in my name. I gave it to you, but it was never yours." Considering how today went, I figured it was time I took it back. He didn't raise his voice, but he asked how I could do that on my nephew's baptism day, leaving them stranded with a baby. Then he said something that stopped me cold. Jenna told everyone you gave her the account, said it was a gift. That it was hers? He went on to explain that she had been telling people I gave her access to the account to make up for missing the baby shower. That I wanted her to have some stability. My parents believed it. She had been building this narrative for months, painting me as the distant sister trying to buy back guilt. They all bought it. I hung up without saying another word. I drove straight to the bank, closed the joint account, deactivated her card, and flagged it for suspicious activity. I wanted to believe she was just careless, not manipulative, but I was wrong. She knew exactly what she was doing. I left the bank with a printed statement confirming the closure. It felt like a massive weight had been lifted. The silence didn't last. The next morning, my phone was buzzing with missed calls and voicemails from my mom, dad, and Jenna. I didn't listen to the voicemails, but the texts filled in the blanks. Pleas for me to talk to them, a screenshot of her overdrawn bank account, and a picture of the baby. It's the same old pity and pressure routine. When my mom called again, I answered. She went straight to the accusations, asking how I could do this to my sister, saying Jenna was humiliated and that the stress was dangerous with a baby around. Your father and I think maybe you should talk to someone, she said. Dropping the line they saved for when guilt didn't work, I stayed calm and told her I was fine. That I was simply not going to be taken advantage of anymore. If this is about the car, you got it back, she said. But you can't punish a mother like this. That's your nephew. It wasn't about the car. It was about how easily they rewrote the story. It's making me the villain the moment I stopped giving. That afternoon, a Honda was parked in my driveway with a wrinkled envelope tucked under the windshield wiper. Inside, a note read, "You want? Control? Fine, take it. No keys, no explanation, just more drama." They had retrieved the car from the impound lot and left it at my place like they were throwing a tantrum. I still had the spare key. I unlocked it and drove it to the back of the house. Later that night, Jenna called, full of tears, claiming her job was on the line and everything was falling apart. Just a few days, just until Friday, she pleaded. I made the mistake of saying, I'll think about it. To Jenna, those words meant the door was still open. I barely slept that night. I knew they weren't done. They were just warming up. I finally sent a one-line text that I had been building up to for years. I've thought about it. The answer is no. I turned my phone face down and walked outside. I didn't need to see the reaction. If I knew what it would be. Shock, then anger, then the same old guilt trips. But this time, I wasn't going to grab the rope they threw. The strange thing was how quiet everything became after that message. I thought maybe they had finally accepted it. But the next day, my dad called, inviting me to dinner. Everyone's here, he said. Jenna is ready to apologize. I knew it was a lie. I told him I'd think about it, but I knew I wasn't going. The next day, Mom sent me a message starting with, I know you're hurting. She said Jenna was under pressure and that they needed the Honda again for a little while. You always felt good helping others, she wrote. Let yourself feel that again. That was the core of it. They had counted on me playing the role they had carved out for me. The reliable one, the one who always sacrificed. I didn't reply. Instead, I took the spare key, drove the Honda to a dealership 2 towns over, and sold it. I didn't want any fanfare. Just a clean break. The signature on the paperwork felt more freeing than any therapy session. When I got home, I logged into my bank and confirmed the joint account was completely closed. Then I blocked their numbers one by one. It felt extreme, but it wasn't a tantrum. It was self-respect, 20 years too late. I haven't heard from any of them since. I don't know what they're telling people, but I sleep better now. Jump when my phone buzzes, and I don't check my balance out of habit. I don't carry that low-level exhaustion that comes from always being their backup plan. Jenna has her life, and I finally have mine back. 2 months of silence passed, and I started to feel like myself again. I was sleeping better, working with more focus, and even dating again. Then a handwritten letter arrived in Jenna's unmistakable handwriting. "I guess you think I'm the villain in all this," it began. She didn't apologize or admit fault. She said she was in a hard place and saw me as a solution, not a person. She admitted the lies about the joint account got away from her. The letter ended with, "I'm not asking for money. I just want to know if we'll ever speak again." I read it twice, but it wasn't a real apology. There was no ownership. It was a long letter about how hard her life had become without me propping it up. I didn't write back. Instead, I wrote a note to myself, which I keep in a drawer now, to remind me why I did what I did. It says, "It's not that I hate you. It's that I finally love myself enough to stop letting you drain me." They never understood that loving myself wasn't a betrayal. It was long overdue. I spent years being the fixer, the family ATM, and the more I gave, the more invisible I became. I stopped trying to correct their narrative. Because the people who want to believe that version of me are not the people I need in my life. I used to think family was something you endured, something you owed. Now I see it as a choice. I choose not to be the fixer anymore. Not because I stopped caring, but because I started healing. Healing isn't loud, it's quiet. It's mornings without dread and nights without rehearsing what I'll say if they call again. It's walking past a photo without bracing myself. It's blocking their numbers and not unblocking them. It's the peace of knowing the silence isn't punishment, it's protection. I chose Lisa, and for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't feel guilty about it.